And they said, hey, we got this young engineer candidate, Trevor Larsen. He's like, Larsen? He said, is that Rick's boy? And they're like, yeah, I think his dad's Richard Larsen. He said, hire him. Click, hangs up the phone. So I was interviewing, and at Georgia Tech, you had to sign up for the interviews and kind of the lottery system. And so I was walking through the halls, and this is kind of the curious and do hard things kind of thing. So I'm walking through the halls, and I see a door open, and on the door it said Disney. Well, nobody could get an interview at Disney because they filled up right away. And I said, I looked in there, looked in the room, and it didn't look like a student and a recruiter. It looked like two old guys. And I'm like, knock, knock, knock. And they're like, yeah. I'm like, hey, do you guys have anybody you're interviewing right now? They said, no, we just had a break. I'm like, oh, cool. Do you mind? Can we talk? And they're like, okay, come on. So I didn't realize it, but in 10 minutes, sitting down talking to Rob Mitchell, who was the director of engineering, I just interviewed. And he said, okay, thanks. Nice talking to you. And I get up, and the second guy goes with me. He said, all right, we're going to fly you down to Disney. I said, what do you mean? He said, you just interviewed, you passed, and we're going to bring you to Disney. Wow, okay, that's cool. So again, I didn't realize that was necessarily an interview. I thought it was just more of a meet and greet. Come down to Disney, go through the full day of interviews. We still do that to some poor candidates now. You go through 7 interviews in a day, you're dead at the end. And in the end, they said, hey, do you know anybody that works at Disney? And I remembered, you know what? One of the guys that went to school with my dad, going back now, 10 years, I think works at Disney. And I said, yeah, this guy, Emmett Peter. And they're like, Emmett Peter? I'm like, yeah. They're like, okay. So they call Emmett. Emmett's in Paris, opening Disneyland Paris at the time. And they said, hey, we got this young engineer candidate, Trevor Larsen. He's like, Larsen? He said, is that Rick's boy? And they're like, yeah, I think his dad's Richard Larsen. He said, hire him. Click, hangs up the phone. And that was it. So I was hired based on an interaction I had with Emmett when I was 9 and 10 years old, skateboarding, and I was curious, and they were working on the mini Baja program, and I'm in the middle of it with them. So and I hadn't seen him since then. So from 10 years old, and the reputation of my dad, boom, I'm hired at Disney. And so I'm like, wow, this is kind of cool.